My name is Tom Gerard, and I am the interviewer and a volunteer with the Biddeford Cultural and Heritage Center. It is Monday, May 16, 2022. Today I have the privilege of interviewing Bob Cote at his home in Biddeford. Bob, thanks so much for agreeing to be interviewed today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And we normally like to start these interviews with asking the person being interviewed when and where were you born?
I was born here in Biddeford, and I lived in Biddeford all my life, really. And I was born. You asked me when? In November 11 in 1943.
And were you born in a hospital at home?
No, in a hospital.
Up at the Weber Hospital?
Yes, I believe it was the Weber Hospital.
The Weber Hospital?
Yeah, well, no, Notre Dame. I think it's Weber.
Yeah, okay.
In them days, yeah.
Yeah.
Notre Dame wasn't built yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you know the history of how your family came to live in Biddeford? I noticed in your questionnaire that your parents were from New Hampshire.
Yeah. My mother and father came from Berlin, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And the mills over there, they were closing down, some of the pulp mills and stuff, and also they were having layoffs and stuff. So they came down to Rollingsford, New Hampshire.
Okay.
My grandfather on the Cote side comes from Canada, and so what they did is the men came down here to work in the mills, and my mother's family were in Somersworth, but they had met in Berlin, and they ended up getting married, and then they came down here and they stayed here forever.
And where were their parents from originally? Do you know?
My grandfather was from. Hey Lou, what's the name of that city we went to on a honeymoon? What's the name of that city we went to on a honeymoon for my grandfather? Yeah, no.
But from Canada?
Yeah, I'm from Canada,
Yeah.
Sherbrooke, that area of Sherbrooke.
Yeah, Sherbrooke, we stayed in.
Yeah, we stayed in Sherbrooke.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my grandfather on the Cote side, he was, as far as I know, he was from New Hampshire.
From New Hampshire.
I don't know. They never talked much about their past too much.
So you never went back to Canada or New Hampshire?
I went there on my honeymoon. We went
Yeah.
down to see some of my aunts that lived in Canada.
Okay.
They were brought up on a farm. They lived over there, and they had sold the farm because at that time they had a big sickness of cows. They had a big thing, and they had lost all their cows, so they ended up having to sell the farm, and so they went off on their own. And one of my aunts was one of those dealers that you would see on TV in the old days, where they have a horse and buggy, and she would go out in the country selling all kinds of articles to the farmers way out in the country. She'd take off on a Monday and come back home on a Friday, and she would be selling all kinds of little tricklets and stuff, stuff that they needed in the house, and if they needed something, and she'd come back and pick it up and deliver it the next week.
Sounds almost like full of brush.
Yeah. And she got to know all her customers, so she would stay at their houses as she went down.
Yeah.
So they would put her there. She could stay overnight, and so she was one of those. And the other one worked for a doctor, helping a doctor out.
Okay.
And then they passed away. And that's the
Did
only
they ever come
relatives
to Maine to visit?
Yes, they've come to Maine a couple of times to visit my mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, they come and they stayed for a few days.
Yeah.
So they were. Yeah. They were nice. They were nice people, but they were old and they finally passed away.
Yeah.
So I have no touch with anybody in Canada anymore.
In New Hampshire at all?
In New Hampshire, I have a lot of. I've got so many relatives in New Hampshire. I don't know half of them. That's how many. My grandfather had 16 children, and the average child had around I'd say around 6 kids. Wow. Some of them have 7 or 8, others have 4 or 5, and all my first cousins, I know the older ones, but because my mother was the second oldest in the family, my father was the oldest in his family. So all the younger ones, when they got married, like I have an uncle that's only a month older than I am. Okay, so when he gets married, I mean his kids and I'm getting married. I mean, so we got to know each other a little bit, but never really that close because of the fact that his kids were way too young. I mean, I was taking care of my kids when he was taking care of his, and they live 40 miles away, so we don't get to see them that often.
Yeah.
So, but I've got, when we have a funeral, my grandfather, when he passed away, nobody stayed in the funeral home. They had a line that would go in and come out. I mean, and the line was,
they were waiting in their own home.
Yeah,
right?
no, they
No?
were waiting in a funeral
In a
home.
funeral home, okay.
And the line was just unreal.
Yeah,
Unreal. You go over there, you wait a half an hour to get to see him,
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, so I got a lot of first cousins.
yeah,
Half of them I never got to meet too
Yeah.
much,
yeah.
So,
Now, do you know how your parents met?
no,
No.
I'm not sure how they met.
No.
No.
And what did your dad do for work?
My father was he was when he came over here. He worked for the government. He was working at a shipyard in South Portland. Had a shipyard then, and he was working for the government there. He was a welder. He was a teacher in welding, and then the war developed. So he went to war. When he came out of the war, then he never, for some reason, never wanted to go back into welding. I don't know why. He didn't go back into. He went to bus driving. And he could have gotten into the shipyard because he was a disabled vet, but he didn't like that kind of production. I don't know. He didn't like it. He just didn't want to. He wanted to be in the public, like. So he stayed as a bus driver for Biddeford Southwood bus line for I don't know how many years, all my childhood. Then after that, he became a milkman for Cote Dairy, and he used to deliver to the stores. He was the one that delivered to all the stores all around, and they liked him. I mean, he got known so good that half the stores he would go to, they gave him a key, and he'd go in and deliver at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, deliver the stuff, and then, like the plaza, he'd go open the plaza up in the morning.
The Plaza Restaurant?
Plaza Restaurant. He would open up the plaza, and then he would get the water going for the coffee, and he would go wake up the owner. Then he would go back to the plaza, and he would stay there and wait for the guy to come in, and the guy would have the grills were already gone, the water was already on, so they gotta have that kind of a relationship with his people,
Yeah.
until he passed away. He passed away at 46, very early, very young. My father,
Oh, wow.
he died on a truck in Scammons in Salco.
Yeah?
He passed away over there. He went in the back of the truck to get some milk and never came out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, and he had, at that time, we still had 5 kids at the house.
Yeah, yeah.
So my mother had a little bit of a tough time there
Yeah.
for quite a few years.
Now, did your mom work at all?
No, my mom was busy at the house with the 7 kids,
Yeah.
and we were up on a farm. My mother worked. She worked hard, but she worked on a farm. We had 300 chickens. We sold eggs, we sold vegetables, and stuff like that.
And where was that?
Up on the Pool Road, next to Davis's garage, next to Legimere Drive.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that back Legimere Drive wasn't
Yeah.
there then. Okay, and that's where we had right next to it is where we had our chicken coops and all that stuff.
Was that, and I'll pronounce this wrong, LaRue, didn't they have a farm there?
LaRue, further up.
Yeah, further up.
Yeah, he had pig farms.
Yeah,
He had a pig farm and the cows and stuff. He slaughtered animals
Yeah.
and he had a big farm.
yeah.
That was a little bit further up. He was closer to Notre Dame. Us, we were closer to the Masonic Hall. You passed the Masonic Hall,
Yeah.
and you went down. Like I say, you got Legimere Drive.
Yeah.
There's a house on the corner. The house before that was ours.
Okay. All
Okay,
right.
my mother had my mother and father. They had 9 acres there.
So, how did you come into town from there?
I got married.
No, but I mean, when you were growing up and everything, did every time you came into Biddeford, did you walk?
Oh no. Oh yeah, when I was younger,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But you see, I was brought up in the city at first.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I was brought up on Jellison's Court.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think Jellison's Court's there anymore. That's gone. There used to be between Pearson's Lane and Hill Street.
Yeah.
There was Jellison's
Yeah,
Court.
yeah, I remember that.
When my father went to war, that's where we were.
Okay.
And when my father came back from the war, then after that he was able to get a loan with the government and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's when we got the farm up on the Pool Road.
Yeah. So, was your family all born when your father left for the service?
No, there was my brother and I,
Yeah.
my older brother Raymond,
Okay, yeah.
and myself. We were the only two when my father
So
went
you
to
have
the
a
service.
second.
I'm the second one.
Yeah.
And then my father came back and he lost the first child. And it was a girl. He lost her. She was at Notre Dame that one. That was the first one. Then after that, my sister was born. Then we moved on the Pool Road. Then he had the 4 other kids on the Pool Road.
How
the 4
old
boys.
were you when you moved on the Pool Road?
Let's see. Back in 1950, we moved on the Pool Road.
All right, so you were still young.
So I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, like I said, my father had the farm. We put up the chickens. I mean, we started off with just 50 chickens, and then we grew to 300, and we had the garden, and we sold potatoes and string beans, potatoes and stuff. My father would sell a lot of it. When he went to the store, sold the milk, he would tell them, "Hey, I've got some stuff if you want it," and he'd deliver it after work,
Yeah.
So we did the farm. Then the farm paid for all our school books. So all the vegetables and stuff we would sell at the roadside, or my father would sell. Then my mother would can all our goods for the winter. We never really bought any vegetables and stuff. When I was a kid, never. We canned all our peas, corn, carrots, you name it. We canned, string beans, and then we had the chickens to live with. I mean, whenever they stopped laying, we'd kill them, and that's what we use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you had 6 living siblings, all boys except
one girl.
One girl.
Yeah.
Right? How was that growing up in a family like that?
Oh yeah, she was spoiled. Well, she had her own clothes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all had hand-me-downs
probably.
in her own room, and we all had hand-me-downs, So, but she was spoiled, but not too spoiled. I mean, she was spoiled on some things, but the boys didn't take it easy on her.
Yeah.
So she was brought up a little bit on the rough and tough side.
Yeah.
She became the vice president of St. Joseph's. The credit union.
Oh, okay.
Okay, matter of fact, she's one of the ones that started the credit union. She was working at St. Andrew's Credit Union, and she took off and went over to St. Joe's when they first opened up. And she's one of the ones that really, her and Chris Grenier are the ones that initiated and started the credit union. And that she was working there until she got an aneurysm, and she had to retire.
Yeah.
But she was the head of HR over there, and she was the vice president of the thing with I can't remember, the Hayes. Yeah, Al DeHaze. Al DeHaze. I mean, her and Al DeHaze were together for years and years and years. They worked together.
He was a character.
He was a character. There's a little red card there around there. Yeah, he was a character.
Yeah. No, I knew him fairly well.
Yeah.
So, what was it like growing up in Biddeford for you? What are some of the memories of growing up?
The thing is when I was, like I said, we were brought up on a farm, so we never came to town that much.
Yeah.
And if we did when I was older enough and to start to come into town, we'd walk. I mean, so it wasn't something that we do too often. My father worked. He was on the road all the time, so it didn't interest him to go anywheres and stuff, And my mother, she'd like to go shopping once in a while and stuff. And it was at Christmas. My father would take her shopping. Okay, and when it comes to the summer, if we wanted to go to the beach, the minute we came out of church, we went to the beach at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And when the people started getting there at 11, my father would leave. We'd have to leave. So that's, and we only did that maybe 2 or 3 times in the summer.
What beach did you usually go to?
Fortune's Rocks.
Fortune's Rocks, yeah. So you just went down the road.
Yeah, it was just down the road.
Yeah.
But my father wasn't one to go out much. He just stayed at home and worked and stuff. We worked in the garden. So he gave us our chores in the morning, and he'd expect them to be done, but I mean, if we didn't do them, he didn't get mad.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd just say, "Hey, this is what I'd like to have done," and so we'd go out and work in the garden, get up in the morning and go work in the garden, take care of the chickens first, then go work in the garden, and when the sun got too hot, then we go in the barn and do some work, some stuff, putting around in the barn. We never really went down. I never really said I played baseball or did any sports, none at all. I mean, because my father figured, and when I was in school, the same thing in high school, he said, "Hey, if you've got the time for the sport," he says, "I got plenty of things for you to do." And in football, which I would have liked to have joined, but I was too small. I mean, I was a peewee when I was young, and he says, "You're just going to get hurt and feel it for the rest of your life." So he says, "Do you want to do that?" So he'd talk us out of it, let's put it that way. So we always stayed at the house and did most of the stuff there.
Did you guys hang around at Clifford Park at all?
No. We basically at the house. Never went. Never really left town. Left the house until I was just I was 17, 18 when I graduated from high school is when I started really branching out a little bit and starting to do things. Otherwise than that, I never went to a dance until I was in my senior year. you know.
So
So
the dances at St.
at
Joseph's
St.
Parish Hall?
Joseph's, St. Joseph's Parish Hall,
Yeah.
and or the St.
St. John's?
John's.
Yeah.
We would go to St. John's,
Yeah.
but St. John's was very strict. St. Joseph's, the priest would be busy talking with the police, and you could do what you wanted, you know. But St. John's was very strict. You had to be very careful. You couldn't go in there feeling good, having a drink, or be a little too sexy with a girl. You know what I mean? They'd throw you out.
Yeah.
But I mean, over there, they were, you know. So that's about the only time I ever started to go out. And then on Sundays, I'd go out with a few of my schoolmates. We'd go to the movies. And that was it.
And would that be downtown Biddeford?
Yeah, it'd be whichever theater, City Theater or Central Theater, depending on what was playing, you know. But the Central Theater was a nice, classy one. The City Theater, you didn't go upstairs. You stayed in. If you did go upstairs, you said right now by the balcony. The people that went up further up, I think you know that. You didn't belong there. You know, so you did. You stayed out of there. I mean, my type, anyhow. It was more the rougher type that went up that section. So that's about it. I mean, you know, never really did anything. You know, until then. Like I said, I mean, I hung around with some of the boys there and stuff, and then I started working at the pizza house. And before that, I used to work when I was in school. I used to mow lawns in the neighborhood in the afternoon when I didn't have my chores were done. I'd go at the neighbors. I had a couple of neighbors. I'd mow their lawns, and or put their trash out, you know, and stuff. Do little things, and then after that, there was a little bakery that opened up, Grandma's Bakery. It was a guy opened up on the old Pool Road. He was working out of his cellar, and he was packing pastries, and he was selling them in the store by boxes, and he would, you know, sell them individually. So I'd go over there and wrap the pastries up at night, you know, after school, and do that for a little while. Then after that, when he moved downtown, he opened up a Grandma's Bakery downtown, and he shut his place up.
Where downtown was that? Do you remember?
You remember where Garnash used to be on Alfred Street?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Well, right there.
Yeah.
Okay. He opened up over there, and so I was around 13 then. So he turned around and he told my brother and I, he says, look, he says, on a Sunday morning after church, he says, if you want to open up the bakery, he says, I'll pay you $2 for the first $10 you sell, and 10% of anything else after. So we used to go in and open up the bakery, and all the pastries that he had left from Saturday that weren't sold, we would sell what we could. We'd stay open till around 11, 12 o'clock when the churches were done, and then we'd drop off the money at his house, and we figured our paycheck ourselves, you know. I mean, we're 13, it was big time to try to figure out our cash, you know. And we could eat the pastries we wanted, you know, so that was a big treat, you know. And then, so then after that, then I went to work at Scissor Roebuck's. I was a stock boy at Scissor Roebuck's on Alfred Street. When Alfred Street, they had the Scissor Roebuck's catalog store.
That's what I remember, the catalog store.
Yeah. I used to be the stock boy over there. Okay, I used to say all the shipments would come in, I'd sort out the shipments and all this stuff. And then that's when I first came out of high school at 17, because I went to work in the mill. But they were going to hire me. They hired all the paperwork done, and when a guy started to take me down to my job, he looked at my paperwork. He says, "You're only 17. I can't put you on a machine." So he sent me home. He says, "Come back next year." So instead of, I said, "I'm not going to sit around for a year." So I went. That's when I went to Scissor Roebuck's. I worked over there. So I was working at Scissor Roebuck's in the morning, 30 hours a week. So my brother-in-law later on became my brother-in-law, but at the time he was his classmate of mine. He was working at Alex Pizza, and he says, "Hey, we can use some extra help. Business is picking up." So I went to work there on weekends, and I would work at the Scissor Roebuck's during the week.
Wow, so that's how you get started.
That's how I got started. And then from there, the hours grew, the business grew, and then my hours grew.
Sure. We'll come back to Alex in a few minutes.
Sure.
What are your memories of downtown Biddeford?
It was so different. It was so different. It was so nice. You could walk down the streets, you know. On a Friday night, there was something else. I mean, you walked down, you had Fishman, you had Woolworth, you had Butlers, you had, oh my God, Palakwich. You had, I remember going to the butter store. You go there, buy the peanut butter by the pound. They would take it out of the bowl. I mean, you know, they sell it to you by the pound. Yeah, that was...
was that something else?
What was the name of that one? It was right on the corner of Franklin Street. Huh? No, the corner of Franklin Street and Main Street. There was a butter store. They used to sell peanut butter and butter and stuff like that. And then there was a J.C. Penney's.
Yeah.
And I used to be amazed because at J.C. Penney's they had their office on the second floor, which was wide open. And you used to buy your stuff downstairs, their shoes. Oh, I love their shoes. I used to buy their shoes, and they would put it in a cylinder like you have at the banks now today. In them days, that was rare. And they would put it in there, and they would shoot it, and you could watch it go all the way up to the office over there, and they would open it up and take their paperwork. And I was amazed.
As a little boy, I was taught, I was mesmerized.
Mesmerized by that. I
Yeah.
used to watch that thing go by, and I used to be so amazed.
Yeah.
And then there was a golf cough at the other end down there, and then we had the first A&P, and then there was Edwards Supermarket. I mean, wow, that was so big. I mean, in them days, but I mean, it was nice because you could walk down Main Street and you felt comfortable, you felt safe. It was all alive. It was bright. It was alive. It was always something going on. Everybody was pleasant. I mean, you even though you bump into someone, they wouldn't be grouchy about it. Everybody would excuse themselves more than anything else. It was just a nice atmosphere, And then everybody hung in their own corner. The St. Louis crowd would hang in at the Puritan, and the Biddeford crowd would hang in at the Mayflower.
Yeah.
And there wasn't no rival thing, you know what I mean? There was rivals at the football games after the games and stuff. Then you go by one of those places. I mean, and the other crowd would cheer or boo you or something. But during the week, I mean, or during the course of the year, nobody went over and started a problem with the other group. You know what I mean? Everybody mind their own, and everybody and it was pleasant. My father used to drop my mother there at Christmas, and she'd walk around the store. She was safe. Now I don't know if I did do that. I mean, I used to walk home from work, and I'd worry sometimes because I had a couple of times that I was followed and a couple of times that, so and today it's even worse.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at nighttime it's something else. And Main Street is dead. You go down Main Street now, it's dead. I mean, you see some people here and there. It's starting to pick up a little bit. It seems a little bit better. But you take one part of Main Street seems alive, but the minute you pass Alfred Street, it's going down. I don't know what they can do to revive it. It's not the businesses themselves, it's the building and the atmosphere that you got to revive. If they could revive that a little bit, it'd be nice.
Yeah.
But those big stores, Fisherman's and Woolworth and stuff, they lit up the town. They lit up the town,
Yeah.
And then there was, like I said, Butler's and Palac, which was very high quality. And, so we had a good variety of stuff right there in a small section,
And I know you were from a big family, but did you ever eat at any of the restaurants in downtown Biddeford when you were growing up?
Never got to eat there.
Yeah.
Never ate there.
Yeah.
I used to walk by there at Christmas with my mom or something, the Wonder Bar, or even at Fishman's they had that counter, and Woolworth had that counter and stuff, But no, that was, my mother figured, hey, we can make it at home a lot cheaper. So I never ate in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Never ate in a restaurant until I started going out with my wife.
Yeah.
That's when I finally, started going out.
Riley's Bakery?
Riley's Bakery, yeah. I used to go to Riley's Bakery, and when the kids were younger, though. Okay, and I used to pick up the bags. They had baggies, and for a nickel, you could get the bag, and it was all like the Neapolitans and the fig squares and all that stuff. All the crust at the end, and when they cut it off, when they squared it off, they would throw all those crusts in a bag. That was our big treat.
Yeah.
And you hope that you hit one with some fig in there or some juice in there, And or if there was a pastry that got crushed or got broken, they put a cream roll that broke or something. They would put it in that bag for a nickel. That was the highlight of our going out or stuff. Yeah.
Now, you went to St. Andrew's Grammar School?
Yeah.
And what are your memories of going to school there? And do you have nuns all the way?
Yeah.
Do you have a combination of nuns and brothers?
But a combination of we had the nuns till the 6th grade. Then they put me over to the brothers, 5th or 6th grade. They put me over into the brothers. The nuns were they ran a concentration camp. They were really something. You had a few that were decent, okay, but half of them were old spinsters, I should say. I mean, they were really they could be very crabby. I mean, in the kindergarten, I went to when I went to kindergarten, I had, what was her name? Lou, what was the name of the girl in kindergarten?
Simon?
Yeah, Simon. Oh, she was a, don't say that on tape. I mean, if you would utter a word, she would take a boy, if he uttered a word, and she would put him on the girls' half of the class in a crib.
Really?
Oh yeah, actually put you in a crib and put you with the girls because you're a talker. If you anything you did wrong, I mean, she put you in a corner. She'd humiliate people to the point where the kids, you get so humiliated. It was people were afraid to speak up or say anything, do anything on their own. I mean, you couldn't express yourself in any way. And then when you went to the nuns, the first one, she was a bummer. We'd eat our lunch in the classroom, and if my mother gave me an apple to eat, and you crunch on the apple and it would make a noise, the teacher would give you hell. And if you didn't, I mean, if you back talk or if you said something, you go out in the front. She'd have put your hand out, and she would take a clicker that she used to click with to make the people listen, and she would turn it over. It was like a stick, and she would hit you in the back of the knuckles. So that's the kind of nun that I had when I was in there. And then finally, when I went to the brothers were okay. But they were also on a relatively mean. The brother would stand there, and if you were talking while he was writing on the chalkboard, he'd turn around with his piece of chalk and just barrel ash it. I mean, you'd have it. Sometimes you'd have it on the head. Sometimes, you get hit by the eraser or by the chalk. I mean, and it was nothing to them to do that. Or slap you against a blackboard or something. They were physical, and then I did fairly good in school. I was doing quite good. They made me skip 7th grade because they didn't have enough room in the 7th grade. So I was one of the top ones of the class. So they put me in the 8th grade. I says, well, by the time I got in there, and I started learning. I says, hey, I'm busting my balls off here for trying to catch up on something that I didn't get in the first place. Mm-hmm. So I sat back and took it easy that year, and told them, I says, I don't care. I says, I'll do this the 8th grade a second time, and I did. They wanted me to pass, and I said no. They offered me my I had a 65 or something, and they offered me my 70, and I said no, I don't want to go to high school the same way I did in the 8th grade. I said I don't want to do that. Mm. So I stayed back there in the 8th grade, and I went to high school with my regular class. So it was my regular buddies in my regular class, But over there at St. Andrews, they just pushed you along. I mean, Yeah.
So in the lower grades, boys and girls were together, and then they separated you at the
No.
grade?
We were separated. The only time we were together was in kindergarten.
Oh, okay.
The minute you came out of kindergarten, you came out of kindergarten, the boys and the girls were separated.
So did the girls have nuns all the way?
Oh yeah. The girls stayed with the nuns all the way.
Right.
When the boys got in the 5th grade, they went over to the other side.
Yeah.
And the same thing with St. Joe's. I mean, when we went to St. Joe's, St. Louis, I mean, the boys weren't. You weren't even allowed to look in the doors to watch the girls come down the stairs on the other side. I mean, you weren't even allowed to do that. Yeah.
So your family went to St. Andrew's Church.
Yeah. We all went to St.
Memories of going to church there.
The memories were nice going to church.
Yeah.
I liked the church over there.
Yeah.
I used to like the church over there. Yeah, they were nice. Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, I was. My mother was very religious, and my father too. I mean, they never missed church. And I remember walking down on Saturdays to go to church when we used to do our novenas and stuff, And my father was gone to work, so we'd walk down to downtown and go to church, and then, and come back. But I like St. Andrews. Yeah, until they started at the end there, it was getting a little bit different, what I mean?
Yeah.
When they started closing off the parking lot because people didn't want to park correctly, and they battered off, they towed all the cars away, and they did all this kind of stuff. It was, and then it just wasn't being run right. The priests were, the ending there, they weren't being done right. So then I felt it bad. I didn't feel that comfortable coming to St. Joe's because St. Joe's was so big. St. Andrews was small and comfortable. Yeah. St. Joe's, I was lost.
Yeah.
When I started going to St. Joe's. But I like St. Joe's. So
did most of your class go over to St. Louis High School
with
you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
90% of them went to St.
And
Andrews.
most of the girls probably stayed at St. Andrew High School?
They say to St. Andrews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's when you lost all, but we didn't know the girls anyhow, so it didn't make any difference
Yeah,
really.
it was separated.
Yeah, it was separated. So,
Yeah.
and then so most of them all went to St. Louis. It was automatic.
And so what are your memories of St. Louis High School?
St. Louis High School was good. It was good memories, and there was a brother Albert there. I don't know if you knew him. Okay, that's the only one that he was the principal, and he's the only one that really was a sour note for me anyhow. I mean, he used to teach Latin, and you had to take Latin if you took a college course.
Yeah.
You had no choice but to take Latin. And I didn't want him for a teacher because he was, overly strict, okay? And so I stayed in a business course and because of him, and that was it. But otherwise than that, all the teachers there were excellent teachers. Mr. Cote especially was the best teacher I ever had. Yeah, he was extremely good. Extremely good, but they were all good teachers there. They were all nice. Mr. Fauché, some of the brothers and all this stuff. They were all really nice at St. Louis.
Now, before we went online with this, we were talking about Mr. Cote, the teacher, who you had, and I also had later, and he was saying that he lived in this house.
He was,
you are in. Right?
He was brought up with this house. I found out later on, as I didn't know that at the time, and then after I bought the house, I was moving, and all of a sudden I bumped into him or someone, one of his relatives, his aunt, and she was telling me that this is where he was brought up. And I said, oh my God. So I invited him over. I said, why don't you come over and see some of the changes in the house, And he didn't want to drop by. I don't think he wanted to see the memories. I don't know. He didn't drop by.
Yeah.
So I says, okay. But I like Mr. Cote. He was very, very good. But he was brought up here.
Yeah.
It's strange because later on, how funny life is, huh? You meet back down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did you attend a lot of sporting events when you were in high school?
The only thing I attended when I was in high school was a few football games.
Yeah.
And then after that, like I said, after I came out of high school, the football games is what I went to when I was my junior and senior year. Before that, I didn't go. I wouldn't go anywheres. But my junior year at the end, I started going to a few football games. My senior year, I was allowed to go. Okay, and then after I came out of high school, I started working at the pizza house. Then I couldn't go to the games because I was working. I was there cooking for when they came out of the game.
Yeah.
Now,
so I think your sophomore year was the year they won the state championship in football.
Yeah.
Was there a big celebration at school after that?
Oh yeah,
I was young then, but I can remember that being a huge deal.
Yeah, there was a big thing at the school. Yeah. I didn't get to go to too much of that stuff. There wasn't too. I wasn't into that stuff at all. Like I said, we didn't participate into any of those activities at all. You used to go down and ring the bell or they do the different things. The big celebration that year. Yeah. Very big. Yeah. But
now, did all your siblings go to?
They all went to St. Louis.
St. Louis.
Okay,
your
until St. Louis.
Yeah.
They went from there. They went to St. Louis until St. Louis. The high school closed, and the last ones I think they ended up at Biddeford.
At Biddeford. Yeah.
Yeah, my last siblings.
Yeah. What are your remembrances about the closing of the school?
It was not that much. I was working,
Yeah.
and I had the kids then and stuff. I had my own family and stuff. So I remember that a bit. I went to visit it a couple of times. I went back there to go see the school and stuff, and back memories, and stuff. But I don't remember that much about it. No.
Sure.
No. Then after that, like I said, I started working, and then from there, I was an increase. I was working the two jobs, Scissor Norbucks and the pizza house, and then eventually I got so many hours at the pizza house, I dropped off Sears, and I stayed there. And then the war was on. Vietnam, so it was like hanging in, waiting to see if you're going to get drafted or not. And in the meantime, I got married and stuff, and so everything got postponed, and I stayed there. So, but I was working 60 hours a week, and so I never had, and between that and the family, I never really had that much of a chance to do too much, otherwise. So I concentrated on that.
So when you came out of high school, you were waiting to see if you were going to get drafted?
Yeah.
And work?
Well, it wasn't long after, because he graduated in '61.
Yeah.
And then the war was just about, was on the way now.
Yeah.
It was on the way then. So I just sat back and waited and see what. I didn't want to just join the service. I didn't believe in going over to Vietnam if I could help it. But I says, hey, I'll go if I'm called. So I went and signed up for the draft, and I sat back and waited, and they just never got back. I got my papers to go for the draft, but then but when I got them when I was on my honeymoon. So when I came back from my honeymoon, they said, well, you're married now, so you're going to be backed up for another year. So I get backed up for another year, and I never got called.
Yeah. Now, did you have friends that went?
Oh yeah, I have a couple. I have some of the friends mine went. Yeah, some of the classmates and friends. Yeah, they went.
Did any of them serve in Vietnam at that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them that did.
Yeah.
So quite a few classmates, I guess. But I mean, my close friends. There's only a few of them that did.
Yeah. How did you meet your wife?
That was on a blind date.
Really?
Yeah.
And who said that?
Yeah, her cousin.
Yeah.
Okay, one of my best friends married her cousin, and they were going out at the time. Okay, and so it came New Year's, came Christmas, and he said, so his girlfriend says, hey, my cousin's, which is my wife now, she says, she hasn't got a date. She says, and I didn't have a date, so. They got, the two of them set it up. They said, hey, okay, fine. So they put us together. So we met on a New Year's Eve.
And where'd you go for New Year's Eve?
We went to Sportsman's Grill.
Oh, in Portland.
In Portland.
Yeah.
Went over there, had a meal over there. Went to Sportsman's Grill. And that's how I got to meet her. And then after that, I called her up and we went out a few more times. And then after that, we started going out, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when did you get married?
I got married in August. The same year.
Okay.
Okay, it was, my wife is one of those that you either get to know her or you don't. Okay? She's not like I am. I'm one of those that it takes you a while to get to know me or something, okay? We go out, this might sound a little funny on tape, but, okay, I pick her up, I had Tuesdays and Wednesdays off, okay? Most of the time it was just one day off, but it was Tuesday or something. So it was in the middle of the week. Okay, so she was working at Kessel and Shoe, and I was working at the pizza house, so I couldn't go out and stay late and all that stuff anyhow. And her father wouldn't allow me to keep her out later than 11 o'clock, no matter what. Okay, so we used to go out and I'd pick her up and I go, just go to a movie or something like that, but you had to come back home early, all right? So we would actually go riding around and stuff, and on a Tuesday there wasn't too much to do. You couldn't go to a dance, there was nothing going on. So I'd go riding around or go to the beach and go parking at Biddeford Pool. But people would say, oh, you went parking at Biddeford Pool, you had to get, no. I went parking at Biddeford Pool, she would sit down and question me. And she'd pick at me until she got to know me. I mean, we'd sit over there for an hour or so, and 45 minutes of it was talking. You know what I mean? And finally I'd bring her back home. I mean, so this is how I got to know her so fast that I went out with a girl before that for a while, and I didn't even know her really. But yeah, I knew her within 3-4 months. I knew what she was like. She told me what she liked and what she didn't like, and believe me, she told me everything. She laid it right out. So I got to know her so good that in August we got engaged and got married in November.
Wow.
And
how long have you been married?
I don't know. Now it's since '64. Is what 50 some odd
58 years?
50, something like that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Two children?
2 children. We lost 2.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, we got 2 and we
Yeah.
lost 2.
Yeah.
So,
Are your children local?
yeah, one of them. My boy still is back at home.
Yeah.
He left for a little while, but he came back home. Now he's back at home, and my daughter lives in Limerick.
Okay.
Yeah, she's married. She has 2 kids,
So you have 2 grandchildren?
2 grandchildren, and 1 great grandchild.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they live up in Limerick.
And you get to see them a lot?
Oh yeah, my daughter comes down every Saturday.
Yeah.
Every Saturday she's here. And my grandkids, I don't see them too much because they work at Portland Springs. They have an awful work schedule over there.
Okay.
You know, they work 10, 12 hours a day,
Yeah.
and their schedule is pretty tough.
Yeah.
So I don't get to see him too much because he's got his kids now, kid now, and
Yeah.
so. But we see each other on holidays, and they come and visit at least a couple times a year. you know, but it's not something that we don't see each other monthly or anything, you know.
Yeah.
But so
Yeah.
they're both busy.
So you're married. You're still at Alex Pizza.
Yeah.
Did you think you would be at Alex Pizza the rest of your working life?
Yes, I did.
you?
By that time, yes.
Yeah.
At first, I was thinking of going to Pratt and Whitney when Pratt and Whitney opened. Okay, because I had a couple of my workers that left and went there, but at the time my wife wasn't feeling good; she was sick, and so I didn't. It was like risky to take a chance in changing jobs and stuff. And with the help leaving over there, my hours got even worse. So I just stuck it out, and then after that, at one point, I almost opened my own. You know, I came close.
I was going to ask you that if you ever thought of going out on your own.
Yeah, I
or,
bought.
or franchising Alex or something.
Oh no! I was gonna open on my own.
Yeah.
Okay, but then when I went to the bank, they wanted my front teeth and everything, you know.
Yeah.
So I says, okay, fine. So I says I'll stick a couple more years and work it out and see what I can do. Okay. So I had a what do you call a corporation started. I mean, I had my corporation. I had everything set up. I had some equipment already bought. I had it stored. I was getting ready to do something, and then so it fizzed out. So I says, okay, fine. So I let that go for now. And then Louis came for sale.
Yeah.
So I says, okay, it's just down the street. It's instant. It's fast. By then, I had accumulated enough money that I could afford to do it. Okay, because between the sickness and the medications and the kids going, my daughter going to college and all this stuff, I mean, my finances were pretty tight. So I was able to pick up Louis. So I go down to pick up Louis, and I had to be very careful because the Greek people, I don't know if you know the Greek people, and you got to be careful. If they would know that I was looking to buy the Louis Pizza, I'd be out of a job. Okay, and so I says, well, I can't put my face there, but I got a friend of mine that went, and he put his face in for me, and he was going to do the front work for me, and I was like on his background, okay. So in the meantime, my wife says, well, she says, Bob, she says, you haven't had a good checkup, she says, in a few years. Why don't, before we sign the papers and do all this stuff, she says, why don't you go for a good physical? So I went for a physical, and I flunked. So that's when they found out that I needed a triple bypass.
Oh my God.
So they said it. So I says, well, put that out the window. I says, if I take that, I'm just going to kill me. So I just never bought it. And this other gentleman bought it. And then from there, I just stayed at the pizza house until it was time for me to...
Did Alex ever know you would pursue that?
No, I never told him.
Yeah.
I never told him. I had another person too, another businessman that confronted me one time, and he wanted me to open up. And I says, okay, fine. And he was going to back me up because I didn't have the money. And he was going to back me up, and I was going to run the place. He was going to finance it. And then the first thing you know, after the second or third meeting, he started telling me, well, we'll be doing this or we'll be doing that. I says, no, the agreement is I'm running the place, and you're going to finance it because I've already got a job. I don't need, to have another guy tell me what I'm going to do. I mean, I know what I'm doing. I know I can run it right, and I know I can do it right. I just want to be left alone. And he wanted to have breakfast, and he wanted to do this one. I says no, so I backed out. I didn't do it.
Yeah. Now the original Alex Pizza was just down the street a little bit, right?
Yeah, it was where the brown building is. Where the homes is now. For the older people. Yeah, it was a Crooked Cane was there before.
Okay.
Yeah, we were right next to Sandler's.
Yeah.
Sandler's had the warehouse over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were right there. It was an old house. It was an old house, bedrooms upstairs, and the downstairs. They converted the downstairs to a pizza house, and we opened over there. And then eventually we moved to the corner there.
When did it open?
It opened in 1960.
1960.
Yeah.
And when did they move into the current location?
In 68.
68.
Yeah. Now when we moved to current location, there was Thompson's Appliances was there, and he had just gotten out. Sandler owned that building, just like he owned the building where we were. So we moved over there. We fixed up all the whole inside. It was just a plain,
Yeah.
They fixed it all up, and then on the other side was a liquor store.
So Truman Driving School wasn't there anymore?
No, it wasn't even there. It was a liquor store. Then the liquor store moved out And then when the liquor store moved to their store, then Truman moved in.
Okay.
Then after Truman was there for a couple of years, then when Truman moved out, our business was growing by then. It was growing enough that we
Moved over.
expanded over to there.
Yeah.
So that's when we took over the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that the reason he moved? Was to have more space?
Oh yes, yeah. We needed more dining.
Yeah.
We needed more dining, more ovens,
Yeah.
more dining. We couldn't keep up. We had the 3 ovens in the front. We had 2 in the back, and the kitchen was quite small to start with.
Yeah.
So there was no
Yeah.
no room. We had to expand. We had to move out.
And how did Alex get his start?
Well, I only got his start because way back, okay, his uncle in Brockton, Massachusetts had a pizza house. And Alec, when he was a kid, he used to go there and visit once or twice a year, and he fell in love with the idea of the pizza. Okay, so when he came over here, okay, when he was older, okay, and stuff, and then the war came over, the World War II,
Yeah.
and then after the war, then Paris Pizza came over and opened up a pizza house on the Pool Street.
I remember that.
Okay, well, Alex came back here. Alec, right before that, Alec had gotten Biddeford Circle paper. Alec used to own that.
He owned
Years
Biddeford Circle
before
Paper Company?
before the war.
Okay.
He was running Biddeford. He owned it.
Yeah.
The war developed. When the war developed, Alec, they couldn't get the paper. You couldn't get bags. You couldn't get car. You couldn't get all that stuff. So Alec had to just about declare bankruptcy. So he paid all his bills. He says, I worked a whole year just clearing out all the bills, clearing up everything. Then he just phased it out. Then he went to war. Then when he came back from the war, then he started roaming around. You know, he went out west. He worked out west for a couple of years, and stayed out there with some of his buddies. Him and Red. They own the bar room there next to George's Italian.
Oh, Doc's Tavern?
Yeah, Doc's Tavern.
Yeah.
Okay, Red over there, him and Red and Peter Fatanides and some of these guys, these Greeks, they all got together, these guys, and they all went to California. So they worked over there for a few years, and then he came back. When he came back, Paris Pizza had opened up on Pool Street. So Paris Pizza, Alex's sister was married to a Paris. His brother was the one that opened up the pizza house on Pool Street.
Okay.
So Alex came back and he got himself a job over there. He started working over there, but they didn't get along. And Alec was telling him that he should move downtown. He didn't want to, and all this kind of stuff. And there was a big clash and stuff. So him and Ernest, Paris, and Alex, they broke apart. Alex left, and he opened up in town. When he opened up in town, that set up a family dispute. A little bit, okay, but so Alec opened up and he stayed there, and then Paris eventually opened up down on the corner of Jefferson and Alfred, where the place had burned down there, where Louis Pizza was for years.
Yeah.
Okay, he opened up over there, and he sold it to Louis Pizza. That's how they called it. They changed it from Paris to Louis, and so Alex, we stayed in business, and then from there we went on. You know, so that's how Alec got started. So Alec, actually, when he left Paris Pizza on Pool Street and he opened up on Alfred Street, okay, Alex went down to see his uncle in Brockton to get some of his recipes.
Okay.
Because that's one of the clashes that they had. They didn't get along, and Alec had an ulcer. Okay, so he had to eat something that he couldn't stand it if it came back up on you. Like if you're going to eat a meal and then it's going to come back up a half an hour later and comes back up. He says
Acid reflux.
yeah, he couldn't take that.
Yeah.
So he worked on his spices until he got it to a point where it wouldn't come back on you. It was a mellow but yet spicy.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's why he had his recipe was all totally different.
So the rumors that he stole Paris Pizza recipe are only rumors.
Are only rumors. Yeah, that's only a rumor. Okay, he was working there. He probably got the techniques of how to work it and stuff.
Yeah.
But the recipes come out of Brockton, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where they come from.
And
Yeah.
what do you think made Alex Pizza the pizza place in Biddeford Circle or Watchet over all the
Okay,
years?
well, you know, Alec, he was single.
Yeah.
Okay, he didn't care to get himself super rich. He says, I want to make money. I want to have a good life. But he says, and he wasn't the hardest worker in the world. Okay, So Alec would go in and he did his work, I mean, and stuff, but he wasn't overly ambitious. He didn't want to open up 2-3 places and all this kind of stuff, okay? He says, hey, the more I make, the more the government's going to take, and what's the difference? I'm going to kill myself for what? To have more money? He says, after you get so much money, you don't need any more. Okay, so he says he had a good life. He's a gambler. He used to like to go out west 2-3 times a year. He'd go to Vegas. He had his trips. He had his money. He lived a comfortable life, and he was happy with that. So he never overpriced the people, and he always kept quality. He says quality comes before quantity, and he said that was his motto. You know, look in the dictionary. Quality is before quantity. And so that's what the model was. So we always made sure everything was the top quality, and he never branched out to try to put different things in like sandwiches and salads and stuff like that. He never wanted to do that because he says it'll take away from my thing. And then after the business started growing, he worked hard. We went in the mills. He got some people in the mills that he knew. And he made deals with them. If you get me some orders, I'll give you a free lunch. So they would go around and pick up 10, 12 orders, and we would go deliver it to the mills. We'd deliver it to them, and then we'd give that guy his free lunch. Okay. Well, we got 12 people to try our pie. Okay, and we did the same thing with UNE. We'd go to UNE, we'd have the students come down. When the new students would come down at UNE, they would drop by the pizza house or something. We would tell them, you get me an order of 20 or more, I'll give you a free meal. And he says, and we'll deliver the pies. So the guys at the college used to get orders for 15 or 20 pies. They would charge a half a buck or a quarter more for the pie. So that way they made money. They got a free lunch besides, and we would deliver the pies to them. So we got the whole college kids, all these college kids, to get the taste of the pizza, so they would come down and. So that's how the business grew. Yeah. You know, we did that to the mills. We did it to over there. We did it in the shoe shops when all the shoe shops on Go and all those shoe shops were here. We had deliveries over there. We go there on a Friday morning with 4 or 5 boxes of pizzas to deliver pies.
To many people in the community, you and Alex's brother and sister-in-law, and Andy Mantis' parents, were like the face of Alex Pizza. For years, if you go in, one or all of three of you were there. You didn't see Alex very much. I think a lot of people thought you were Alex.
Often they used to come in and call me Alex. And besides that, I think I look like a Greek because I got black hair and a big nose, and so they used to, but. Yes, Alec was, like I said, he wasn't the hardest worker in the world. So if he could have time off, he would take it. He wouldn't say, "Hey, I'll work and cut the labor down." No, he let the labor have the labor, and he's the one that took it easy. You know. So he worked. He did it that way. You know. So he figured, hey. So he wasn't there that much. I mean, in the first few years he was there. I mean, and he'd check in every day. He was there every day, and if there was a complaint about any kind of a pizza, somebody would complain about something, boy, I'll tell you, he was down there checking it out, making sure that complaint was taken care of. I mean, you know, you didn't make that same error a second time, you know. And he was very, very, made sure that, you know, like I said, our motto was the quality. And we always had, I used to bring up the kids when I used to teach them, I used to say, hey, my mother's going to come in and buy a pizza today. Okay, and I don't know which pizza she's going to be getting, but it better be good. Yeah. Okay, so this way here, no matter what pizza you make, I mean, make them all right because you don't know which one she's getting. Okay, and so this is the way we worked it out. And Alec was very strict on that, you know, to make sure that customers complain, boy, give them a new pie. Not a problem. I mean, just bring me the old pie to show me that there was something wrong with it, and you get yourself a new pie. I mean, no questions asked. You know, no questions asked.
And who made the pizzas?
Me.
You made it?
Yeah. Matter of fact, without cutting anything off too much, after Alec had, after he had so many years, I mean, then Alec wanted to retire. All he did, Alec, was he'd show up at nighttime to pick up the money. Okay? He wouldn't even show up to open up. I'd open up in the morning. I'd get the kitchen going. And then I stayed through supper, and then Mike and Effie would come in and close in at nighttime. They were the night people. Okay, they would come in and close in at nighttime. And then after a while, and Mike used to take the money home. He'd cash out and take the money home. Then Alec would pick it up, the next day or something, But Alec wasn't there that much, very, very little. And so the first thing you know, I'd be doing everything. I made from the spices to the dough to, I did some of everything. When Andy came over, and Alec took Andy in, because he wanted to retire, and so he took Andy in. Mike and Effie had retired by then, and so he took him in, and I showed him how to make the spices and stuff. But then Andy was the same way as Alec. The first summer that Andy worked there, he wasn't hardly there.
Was he still teaching back
No,
then?
he had left. He took a year of what do you call that? Sabbatical.
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, Alec told him. He says, at the end of the year, he says, we'll decide. He said, if you want to stay or not. He says, and of course. That summer, Andy, he went to Vegas with Alex. He was traveling with him. They traveled. They went around the world. They took a tour around the world. I was running the place, so they went all over the world.
Sure.
And they were gone for 3 months. And then, so by the time he came back and stuff, he knew a little bit about the pizza house, but not that much. So, he was enjoying his life. So he says, I don't want to go back to teaching. Why should I go back to teaching? I like this job. So Alex says, okay, so he kept him on. And then Andy stayed on, and he didn't go back to teaching. So then after that, Andy stayed because he lost his teaching job anyhow.
Yeah.
So Andy stayed, and then that's when he started picking up. Alec told him, he says, you got to learn it. He says, because he says, I'm not going to be here all the time. So he says, you got to learn it. So Andy then started to learn what to do at the pizza house.
Yeah.
So I taught him what to do and stuff, Then when I left, Andy still, he knew how to make the dough, but he still didn't know the spices and stuff. I was the one making them.
Yeah.
So I says, well, if I leave and I retire and I don't give him the spices, then then the pie's going to change so much that I've worked 50 years over there, 52 years. And my customers know me well, and I know them, and we had a relationship. Not friendly, but a good relationship. And I says, I can't see somebody coming in and spending their good money buying a pizza and not getting what they're supposed to get.
Yeah.
So I told them, I showed them the spices, I showed them everything I had to do. I went back down a couple of times after I retired to settle things up because they were having problems. I've gone down and I told them, anytime you got a problem, give me a call. I'll come down and I'll settle it, but I will not stay there and work because Andy, as it went along, Andy had his nephews there, and the nephews, whatever they did was correct, whatever I did was wrong. Okay, and it got to the point where they pressured me out.
Uh-huh.
So when they pressured me out, I told Andy, I says, I will come down here and help you because I want to satisfy my customers. But I will not go down and help them to put out the production.
Yeah.
I said, they're on their own. They want to push me out. That's because they don't want me there. Then I won't be there. Not for them. So I go down and help. I'll go down and give Andy a hand if he needs one. Or if he needs some advice, I go down and give him some advice. More than once. I'll give Stephanie advice. I don't care. I don't mind.
So
but
his daughter Stephanie is running it now.
yeah, she's
correct?
running it now. Her and the twins. And the two guys that pushed me out.
How many years did you end up working there?
52.
52 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but anyhow, so that's what happened.
Yeah.
Not too many people know the fact about why I left. As far as everybody's concerned, I retired. Okay, but actually I retired because I was planning on staying there part-time, working on the weekends, keeping in touch and staying there, making a few bucks, but I says, no, I couldn't take it.
Yeah.
I couldn't take that.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not going to be the face in the front and then they do what they want in the back.
Yeah.
So I left.
So it sounds like, except toward the end, when of your time at Alex, that
Yeah.
overall it was.
Oh yeah, it was very good.
Well, you enjoyed the work.
Yeah.
and
Well, they left me
part of
alone. Nobody wanted
Yeah.
to, they didn't
Yeah.
want to bother me because I
Yeah.
took care of the place.
Yeah.
Okay, all they had to do, Andy, the same thing. Andy, all he did is he came in. He'd come in if
Yeah.
it was short-manded, he'd give us a hand for an hour or so, and then he'd leave.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, if he had something else he wanted to do, he wouldn't even show up.
Yeah.
Okay, and he'd show up only to cash out, pick up the money at nighttime, and the rest of the time I took care of the place. I mean, I hired the people, I trained them, I put out the product. I mean, and if somebody was missing, they called me up on my days off, and I go in and put out, and make sure the kitchen was all settled, and or if there was a cook that didn't show up, I'd show in and take his place and stuff, so they had me on the side, so Andy never had to go in. So he did like Alec, he just stayed on the outside, and so they never bothered me, so I liked it because I was like my own boss,
Yeah.
The only thing is like I said, it got to the point where they would they outnumbered me,
Yeah. And Andy, kind of the same philosophy as Alex in terms of just doing one thing and doing it well.
Well,
Not putting in sandwiches or.
Andy wanted to put in sandwiches when he first took it over.
Okay.
He wanted to put in salads. He wanted to put in other things, and I wasn't in for it. And I guess he fizzled out. He looked at it. He tried, and he was going to, and he talked about it, but he was going to put larger pies and do this and do different sizes and stuff. And I never pushed it. I never backed it up. And so he just mentioned it, and then he fizzled out,
Yeah.
and he never did. He fizzled out. He didn't push it. In other words, if he would have wanted to do it, he would have had to go in and do it on his own, and he didn't want to do that. So I didn't
Yeah.
want to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to change anything that was working so good.
Yeah.
This way here, our product stays fresh. I never ran out of pies when I was there because you plan your day. I mean, when you sell so much for lunch, you say, "Oh, I got to get ready for supper." So you do a few more in the afternoon. I mean, you got to prepare things a couple hours ahead. And you see to it that you don't run out. But today they just go in the morning, they put so much out, and that's it. They sell out.
And then they just close.
They close.
Yeah.
They close up. They go in the morning, just produce so much in the back room, and then that's it. Yeah. So it's not the same thing anymore, it's not, I don't know, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
I mean,
And Andy never thought of opening other locations.
No. Alec, I one time did, he was going to go open one up out west, and he had a friend out there when he went, he lived out west for a few years, and the guy was going to open it up. Alec was going to go get him started and then come back, and the guy backed out.
Yeah.
Okay, but Alec was going to go get him started. He went down and got everything, he was looking at it. And then after that, he ended up, the Paris Pizza, the one that was married to his sister,
Yeah.
okay, Alec opened up a place for him in Laconia. And he opened it up, and then he gave it to him. He just opened it up, got it started. After it got started, he just gave it to him. He just said, "Here, it's yours, run it."
Yeah.
He says it was his sister and stuff, and he was living there, so he just gave it to him. So that just about wraps up my life, actually. But
What about one of the things we like to explore are either local or national events and your memories of them, if there are any. We talked about the Vietnam War a little bit.
Mhm.
You might have been too young to remember the Great Fires of 1947. Do you remember those at all?
No, I don't
No.
remember those. Okay, but the house that we lived in, okay, there were some trees in the back that were burnt. I mean, and stuff. We could tell the fire came close to the house. Came very
up to
close.
there.
Very
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
But if you go out there was some apple trees out there in the back fields, and the priest used to come down and do some prayers and stuff, and you see the medals that they had put up in the trees, to prevent the fire from coming across. But it never got really close to the
Yeah.
house. I don't remember that fire.
Yeah.
No.
And what about where you were and your thoughts around when President Kennedy was assassinated?
Well, I was coming home from school. I was still in high school. I was just coming back home from school when he got assassinated, and that was a sad day. That was a sad day. He was quite the president. I mean, he was at that time. I mean, we found out a lot of things about him later that we found out it wasn't quite the same as what we were told. But I mean, at the time, he was quite the hero, and it was. It was a sad day.
Yeah.
Very, very sad.
And do you remember the Hooper Street fire and the Grafton lumber fire? They
Yeah.
were like back to back.
Oh yeah, boy
yeah.
did that burn.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Hooper Street cleaned
Yeah.
out all of Hooper Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, and the Grafton fire, and then there was that other lumber yard down there and stuff. Oh yeah, that was bad.
Yeah.
And then I was also told about, I don't remember it, but I was also told about the flood that was over there at that time too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Leo, he used to, he owned, when he was younger, he was living on, okay, when you cross a bridge and you make the corner there where Deering is,
Yep.
okay, that whole area got flooded one year.
Yep.
And he was living in that house, that little side street there, Market Street, is it, or something? That little side street that goes off there from the minute you pass the bridge, Domino's and stuff, you pass the bridge, is that side street.
Yeah, I know what you
Okay,
mean.
to the left.
Yeah.
Okay, he was living in that house with just like a V, like,
Yeah.
okay. And he says, well, the water was right up to the house.
Yeah.
It was, the river was in the back and the front, and
Yeah.
he says it was right up in there. But he told me about it, but I don't remember that.
Yeah. I want to go back to Alex Pizza just
Yeah,
for
sure.
a second.
Sure.
Do you have any humorous stories from
Oh,
Alex
my
or
God,
anything like that that you can share?
Some, yeah, oh yeah, some of them are humorous, some of them I don't know. I've had, like I said, Alec was in hardly ever there. I remember one time where there was a bunch of guys that came in. Two guys came in, and it was on a Friday night, and they were rough. Okay, but they came in and they ordered pizzas and stuff, and they ate and stuff. And they took off. The next week they showed up with their friends. There must have been around 15, 20 of them that showed up, and they were in cars, but they were bikers and stuff like that. Okay, and they were rough. In them days, the cops used to patrol by feet. They used to walk the beats. Ted Drew was one of the cops that used to be in our group. Okay, so he comes by and he walks in and he sees this rowdy crowd. In the meantime, Alec comes in. His girl, he was going out with the girl that was working the cashier. So he comes in and he sees the crowd. He says, "I'm not going to put up with this." So Alex tells the girl, he says, "Come on," he says, "we're going to take you home." So he takes her home, and I'm there alone. And I'm looking at these guys, and these guys are walking around. They're going down in the kitchen. I'm trying to get them out of the kitchen, and the guy's walking in the back of the stove and stuff. So Ted Drew comes in. He says, "Bob," he says, "what's this?" He says, "You're busy?" And I says, "Yeah, well, it's not the kind of business I like." And he says, "Well," he says, "got a problem?" I says, "Not yet." He says, "Oh, okay then." He says, so they saw him and everything, so he takes off. And he knew there was a problem. So next thing you know, I see these guys, they get up and they say, "Well, we'll make our pies to go." And they start taking off, and I look out, and Ted Drew was sitting at the Laterno filling station, which is across the street there where today is the Pete's, Paul's Variety.
Yeah.
He was sitting over there in the cruiser with 6 cops, and they had their belly clubs, and they had the light on inside the cruiser, so you could see the 6 cops with their belly clubs waiting like this here, and you see these guys file up, and they never came back. They never came back.
Okay.
Yeah. So Ted Cruz said, Ted saved me.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what would have happened from there, but otherwise than that, it was we did pretty well. I mean, we've had times where I had a guy who used to live upstairs. I mean, it was rough upstairs. The upstairs of the pizza house at that time was rough. We were known to be in the combat zone of Biddeford.
Yeah.
And they found the guy underneath the refrigerator one time. They don't know how he got there. Another time there was a guy that lost at Russian roulette, and he lost. He didn't. He lost his turn.
There's nothing up above now, right? Apartments,
No, it's
nothing?
mostly empty.
Yeah.
Mostly empty. There's only one guy that lives up there now.
Yeah.
Okay, he lost at Russian roulette. Another time there was a big crowd across the street, and we were wondering why. And a girl came in, and she had walked up the back of the pizza house, went upstairs, found her husband in a room with some girl, and she's trying to put him out at the third floor window, and she's pushing him, and the screen wouldn't break, and she's pushing him, and the crowd's out there waiting to see if the guy's going to go through the screen or not. I mean, little stuff like that, and there was a murder up there one time. I walked in on a murder. A guy got his head crushed in, and but there was a bar across the street at the time. There was a little bar there where the post office is. There was a bar there. And at nighttime, when that bar emptied out, I mean, there was a lot of the ruffians would be living upstairs, or they'd be in a neighborhood. I mean, it was a rough neighborhood.
Yeah. when the post office went in there, it kind of served
Oh,
out.
that
Served
helped
you guys
us.
well,
Oh,
right?
wow,
You,
you
you had a
kidding.
parking lot
Oh
there.
yeah, the parking lot as well as it got it, the bar got it thrown out. There was a couple of houses there next to it that was really pretty rough
Yeah.
neighborhood. They cleared all that stuff out, you know. So it really changed the whole corner. I mean, you know. So yeah, it changed everything
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah.
And then besides that too, when then the city turned around and bought out Sandler's and did all that stuff, they changed Pool Road. Pool Street used to come out, and then you had to turn right, and then turn left again for Jefferson. They turned around and bought two T-Sisters and changed the street. So that took care of all the ruffians in that section there. So it changed Alfred Street a lot when the post office and the city did that. It changed the whole atmosphere.
Yeah.
Then we became more of a safe place, I
Yeah.
should say, you know. But even though it was a rough neighborhood, we never had problems because we never put up with any bullshit at all. I mean, we never had loud music in there. We had an old-fashioned radio. We ran the radio. All the bums, we'd throw them out just as fast as they came in. We didn't care. We didn't just threw them right out, you know. We had a few fights in there. One time one guy was asking for it. He really was asking for it. There was a guy that came in, and he was sort of husky, and he came to sit down, and he missed the chair. So the other guy starts laughing at him. So he sat down in the chair. So this guy kept teasing him, and teasing him, and teasing him. And I told him, I says, hey, leave him alone, you know. And the guy was feeling good. So he said, oh, no. So he kept on. So the guy got up, and he just picked the guy up and gave him one punch. The guy hit the floor and slid all the way down across the room. And come to find out, the guy that he was being teased, the guy that missed the chair, he was celebrating because he's a Golden Glover.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I go over there to grab the guy because I didn't want him to hit him a second time. And when I grabbed his muscles and I see the guy's flinching his muscles, you know, and I'm feeling him, I says, Bob, you don't belong here. I mean, I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. But then his buddy turned around, and between me and him, we talked him into going out, you know. Yeah. And then the same thing with a lot of other people that were drunk. We get rid of them. We do fancy things. People would fall asleep at the table when they were drunk. We take their pie away, and we take and put an empty plate, and we'd wake them up and say, hey, you're all done. Oh, okay. And he'd take off and leave, you know.
Did you ever consider serving alcohol?
No. We didn't want no alcohol. No. We've even picked up a guy one time that was badly drunk, and we couldn't wake him up. And there was a truck driver that came in, and he says, "Well, you need a hand, Bob?" I says, "Yes." So we picked him up each underneath the arm. We walked outside. We sat him in a snowbank, and then we came back in and we watched. And when the guy his balls started to get cold, he got up. He didn't know which way to go. He walked up the street, down the street, up the street, down the street, up the street. Then finally he went on one way, and that was it. I mean, you know, stuff like that. You know, or when somebody would come in, I'd cook their pie in a hurry. You know, and cook it a little lighter than it should be, just to get them out of there because if they were mouthy and stuff. You know, we didn't put up with any.
So I've got a question for you on one of the big debates in Biddeford.
Yeah.
Does it really make a difference which oven your pizza is cooked in?
Well, it depends on the kind of pizza you're buying. Okay, if you're buying a pizza with a few ingredients on it, it would be better off in the old oven. The old oven has a dry heat. Okay, now you're an older person. You remember when your mother used to cook with a range oil?
Yeah.
And then she changed over to electric?
Yeah.
Wasn't the meal a little bit different?
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
The texture is not quite the same when you have a dry heat. Okay, now on the other side, the old oven, okay, they have the cement bricks. I mean, for the okay, the pie would take a little, just a hair longer to cook, but it was a dry heat. Okay, it would cook it all the way through. This one here, it cooks in the bottom and the top at the same time. The conveyor belt.
Yeah.
So if you've got a pie with a few ingredients on it, the middle stays a little bit not quite as cooked as it should be. So it's a little bit soggy like. Okay. Also, if you cook it in a new oven, the pie will get cool faster. In other words, by the time you get home, your pie will be cooled off a little bit. If you get it in the old oven, your pie will stay hotter longer because the heat is dry heat and it stays hotter longer.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a difference. But I like the old oven because I can make that pie come out the way I want it to. Okay, I wanted the pie to be crispier in the bottom. I could put it in a certain spot in the oven. I wanted the top to cook more. I put it in another spot in the oven. Okay, this new oven, when it comes out, if you push it back in, you're going to get the bottom overcooked. Okay. If you try to get the top cooked more, you're going to get the bottom overcooked. So you've got to try to balance it in between. The other one, you can make it do what you want. But you need experience on the old oven so to be able to do that. Okay, if you don't have that experience, you might as well, you're better off on a conveyor.
Yeah.
You're better off on a conveyor.
Yeah. Interesting. So, what has being from Biddeford meant to you in your life?
Well, to me, I mean, I've gone a few times here and there. I mean, I haven't traveled much, but I mean, I've gone to Tennessee one time for a vacation, and I've also gone to Vegas for a vacation. And a couple of times, once or twice, I went, here and there. I've gone to Boston for different things, and I'll tell you, I like Biddeford because of the fact it's quiet. It's you feel safer. It has all the luxuries that you want if you want to leave town. I mean, right now, Biddeford is building up a lot of little restaurants and stuff, okay? But before that, if you wanted to go to Portland and have a nice meal, you could go to Portland and have a nice meal. You wanted to have a nice show or something like that, you could get it out of Portland. Or if you really didn't mind fighting the traffic and all this kind of stuff, you could also go to Boston, which is just an hour away. But yet, over here, yes, you could walk the streets safely. We used to leave our doors unlocked until a few years back. I mean, never locked our cars. Never worried about, I've got a generator that I want fixed up. I don't dare leave it out in the yard because I'm afraid somebody will take it. Okay, so I'm waiting for the guy to come in. He was supposed to pick it up. He didn't pick it up. So I says, okay, fine. I put it back in the garage. This is today. But in my days when I was here, I mean, all this stuff was nice. Like I said, we go down Main Street. If people were nice to you, you went into stores. Everybody was always nice. There was everybody was working to help you. Today it's more like you're on your own. Okay.
Growing up, did you speak French?
Oh, yeah. I used to speak French so much. My wife and I used to speak French so much that when my boy went to school, we had him at St. Andrews, and he had Simon. And when Simon started to do what she was doing to me, we pulled him out of there and brought him to Biddeford, to the public school. When he went to public school, they told us, have his ears checked because he can't hear what the teacher's saying. And all the time, it wasn't that he couldn't hear, it's just he didn't speak English. He was speaking French all the time. So now my boy doesn't even speak French at all because we started speaking in English at the house to be able to do that, to get him in, so he doesn't speak French at all. But my wife and I, my mother and my father, she had a hard time in English, and my father, he did good, but I mean,
Did you ever feel treated differently because of French descent, or you spoke French growing up in Biddeford?
No, never treated differently.
A lot of it when you were growing up.
Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, when we moved on the Pool Road, we were the only French family in the neighborhood, and we had the guys across the street, I mean, they were Yankees, and so they didn't speak French, and we didn't speak English. So we'd sit there, and I'd teach them what we called the bottle, what we called the house. I would tell him what it was in French, and he would tell me what it was in English. We spent a year teaching each other the language, so we could pick it up. And so I always got along very well with people, no matter what.
Who do you think was the single biggest influence in your life?
My mother and father were the biggest. They were the biggest influence in my life.
Sounds like you really adopted their strong work ethic.
Yeah. My father was a workaholic, and my mother too. My mother would work in the house doing all the kind of work. I mean, she did everything. I mean, from the ironing, the washing of the floors. I mean, and having the 7 kids, and then she'd come out in the garden and help us. In the afternoon, I mean, she'd do some of the housework in the morning, then come in the afternoon, and help us out in the gardens and stuff until the sun got too hot. Then we'd all go back in, and then at nighttime she'd do the canning and do all that kind of. My mother would work she'd wake up my father at 4 a.m. and then stay up, get our school lunches ready and everything to send us off to school in the morning, and then she'd be doing all our housework and all that stuff until we got home, got supper ready and everything, did all the dishes, and she would till around 11, 12 o'clock at night, and then she'd go back to bed and sleep 4 hours and get back up. She did that 7 days a week. 7 days a week she did that. She was a tough lady. Never.
She sounds it.
She was hardly ever sick. Hardly ever sick. Tough lady.
And what's it like being in the retirement phase of your life?
Well, I retired and I didn't. I became my wife's helper. No, my wife wasn't feeling good. She's had 5 back operations,
Okay.
and so there's a lot of stuff. She's very restricted in a lot of things. Okay, so when I retired, I just taking care of the apartments here, and so I started doing the errands for her and doing stuff like that, and I had a lot of stuff to catch up over here,
Yeah.
So I started catching up on the work that I wasn't able to do. So I got caught up on all this kind of work, and then I started doing just the errands and stuff for her. And as time went along, then I started to feel it, like my knees. I got arthritis in my knees, so I had to. We were living upstairs. And this year, we moved down here in February because I can't do the stairs anymore, and my wife can't do the stairs because of her back. So we had the place down here remodeled and all fixed up.
It must be nice to be able to remain in the home you've been in for
Yeah.
so long.
Yeah, I've been in here for a long time,
Yeah.
So it's nice. And this house here, when I bought this house here back and then, it used to belong to St. Joseph's Parish.
Really?
It didn't. It belonged to St. Joe's. St. Joe's sold it to Mr. Dion. Mr. Dion owned it for a couple of years. The place was run down. I mean, really, really run down. The church never took care of it. They just collected the rent. Okay, and the windows were ready to fall out and all this stuff. So the guy came in here. He started doing some work and stuff. So his wife says, "Hey, you're not going to spend your weekends over there working all the time." So she sold her. She put the place for sale, and I bought it.
Okay.
So I got it from him. He had it maybe 1 or 2 years, and I bought it.
And what year did you buy it in?
Oh, I can't remember now. I mean, it's been my daughter was 5 years old, and she's 53 now.
Okay.
So it's 48 years
48
ago.
years? Wow.
So, and I bought this house. I mean, it had no heating system. They needed a new roof.
Like 74, somewhere around there? 1974? I
Yeah,
think.
somewhere in that vicinity. Yeah, and I had to. I mean, the windows, like I said, the windows were falling out. There's no insulation, no nothing. I mean, that's all I could afford. So I bought it was basically just a frame.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I remodeled all the 2 apartments on the other side. I remodeled the one upstairs, remodeled this one. Then I rented them out, and then with the years been keeping up. I mean, I've been. I didn't charge that much for rent, but yet at the same, my tenants stayed for years too.
Yeah.
So then when they do leave, I go in and I do a good job. Like I'll redo something. Like there's one tenant that's leaving now. I'm putting in all new floors in there. And all the modern stuff and stuff like that. So we try to keep up. But yeah, I bought this. It was like I said, it wasn't much, but it turned out to be good.
Yeah.
Turned out to be good, but it was a lot of work. Well, it was a lot of work. Yeah.
So, what is something you'd like people to take away from your story?
I just like them to think that especially when I was working and stuff. Okay, that I was conscientious about my work as well as the customers. I wanted to make sure that I gave them a fair deal. I took care to help like I would if it would be my own kids. I mean, I never abused them or anything else. So in other words, I'd like them to think that I was a kind person and a fair and and an honest person. I mean, I wouldn't take anything from anybody, no matter what. So we lived a good, honest life and a good religious life. I mean, I'm quite religious, and my wife is the same thing. So we lived a nice, quiet, honest life, and that's what I'd like to see them take from me. I mean.
And is there anything you'd like to share that we didn't talk about or I didn't ask
I
specifically?
can't think of anything. No, I think we covered just about everything.
All right. Well,
We did good.
thank you, Bob. I really appreciate your time.
Well, I'm surprised that I was able to say that much.